Now, one example of where we may have to change our mind. Do you remember when the Exxon Valdez hit the rock coming out of Alaska and huge oil spill? Well, one of the immediate reactions to that within the next year was no more single-hulled oil tankers were allowed to ply American waters. And that was followed by the European Union. They said no more single-hulled oil tankers. All had to be double-hulled to avoid this kind of thing, because our waters had, every year a number of tankers going down. But what we didn't realize as we solved our problem is that we suddenly created a glut of single-hulled oil tankers around the world that no shipyard was able to get insurance to bring in to scrap. So what happened to these tankers? Well, they were abandoned off the coast of Bangladesh and India. And for good reason, they couldn't get in our shipyards because of the oil and the sludge and so on in the bottom of these tankers, which they weren't allowed to just flush at sea, thank God. But they ended up on the shores, Bangladesh and so on, where they were hauled ashore and cut up with hacksaws, sometimes with torches, people with oftentimes no safety goggles, no footwear, done by hand. And these pictures are by Ed Bertinsky, which is, you can find called the Shipbreakers. But it gives you an example of what happens when we solve our problem in the north, but we create problems in the south. The complexity of how we try to learn our way forward is huge. One of the things that we soon realized that there are some things that can be changed right at the school level using the strengths model. A teacher can change the curriculum at the whole school. They can change and become an eco school or a green school or whatever. There are thousands of these around the world. But to make the profound change that's necessary, we need to engage the education leaders. That is the ministries of education, the superintendents and directors of the education systems, including the trustees, etc. And the third group are the faculties of education that are preparing the new teachers, as well as certifying principals, in helping to develop curriculum, write textbooks, education policy, etc. So this most senior level is an extremely important component. And we've started a program now called Sustainability and Education Academy. And this is one of the ways in which, by bringing these three groups together, we can look at moving beyond the whole school to the whole system approach. This is proving to be very, very positive. We're learning a great deal. It's not so much about training, it's about learning, the old expression of train the trainer. It's more learn with the learner, because no one really knows exactly how to do this. This is extremely exhilarating and really creative. This slide shows how do we begin to fund the reorienting of a school or a system. One of the hidden treasures in all of this is the quest for green schools. Now, green schools provide not only energy savings, they provide a better education, there's less in the way of illness, there's better learning from natural daylighting, etc. And the school is modeling, again, what it is that we really should be doing. But let's go back. There are the energy savings. And so in this slide, we show an arrow moving along. And at the very front of it, the energy savings, because we're seeing that this is a new source of money that can plow back into reorienting the curriculum itself and engaging them. Now, the different major disciplines, you see, we want to move from the adjectival educations into the core, because it's history, geography, science, phys ed, etc., that have 95% of the curriculum time. This, in the future, has to be the delivery mode. And if we can use the energy, water, waste management to not only model better behavior, but to save that money, plow it back into rethinking how these major disciplines can work out a way in which they can each contribute to the idea of sustainability, and how they can each reorient, but doing it with collaboration, a systemic approach to it. This is what many school systems around the world now are trying to undertake. It's a way forward, and I think it's a key way that we need to explore more and more. It's as though there are, as I say, almost overwhelming, but we need to begin. And each one of us has in our heart and in our minds a way of moving forward. The trick is to begin now. Now, let me close with just one great story. When I was part of the writing team, in fact, I chaired the process, the writing of the Bond Declaration. And the Minister of Education, there were 30 writers on that, pretty well all ministers of education. And the Minister of Education for Indonesia wanted us to address nobility. And he couldn't get any support for that, and I was wondering, well, where is this going? So over coffee, I said, what do you really mean? And he said, well, there is a nobleness in saving the world. He said, it's so much more important than my teachers trying to teach division by 4 numbers. He said, there's a purpose in all this that teachers can rise to, that my principals, my superintendents, there's an importance to this. And I thought, and I went back and yeah, we worked around that and built that nobleness. We didn't use the word, but we built it into the Declaration. And I thought afterwards, when I was involved in all of this in the late 1980s, when we were thinking about what is the contribution of the world's education, public awareness, and training systems to building a more sustainable future, that was the question. And that's what has driven me over the years. Now it's almost reversed. It's what can the pursuit of a more sustainable future, that worthy, noble goal, what can that contribute to our education systems? So, what is education for sustainable development? Well, it's those 4 thrusts. It's about access and retention in formal education, about reorienting education, it's about public awareness and understanding, and it's about training. It's about those 4 things as a quest, and who delivers it? Everybody. It's our entire system as we try to reorient our education systems. That is what it is.
The teachers, the principal, secretary, everybody, they're so supportive of this. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. This can make so many more people want to change their minds about how much electricity they're using, and how much pollution we're causing, and what we're doing to our universe right now, and how we can change that and make everything go in a completely different direction.
We're using the technology we have to help what's going on.
It's really not that hard. People think, well, that's so hard, but it's not. I thought it'd be hard too, and now I'm like, wow, this makes me feel good. It's not hard.